Hi, it's Ashley from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome back to my channel where I make a lot of cake and cookie decorating tutorials as well as give a lot of baking business tips. And today I wanted to give you some really simple and easy ideas that even beginner bakers can do at home whenever you're faced with a character party. I know I made Paw Patrol themed ones in this particular tutorial, but all of these ideas you can transfer over to any character. The other day, I made a short on how much I really do not like Paw Patrol as a theme, and let me tell you, I did not expect to get some of the comments that I did on that particular short. Now, I'm not going to perseverate on the actual comments that were put on there. However, I am going to talk about how you can kind of make yourself inspired by whatever project you're doing, which was actually the point of that short in the first place. So the first thing I want to start off with is, even if you're not a big fondant person, it's great to have a little bit of fondant on hand at all times. That way you can whip it out when needed. Now, I really don't like to make Paw Patrol characters. They are very, very in-depth, and most characters are fairly in-depth, especially if you're going to go Disney. So instead, in order to create the essence of the character, I'm just going to project a picture onto this fondant right here, and then I'm going to trace it with some black edible marker. If you don't have a projector like I didn't for a very long time, you can freehand the characters, or you can also trace the characters. Now, you might notice there's a little bit of white residue on my fondant. That's just cornstarch, and you can easily brush it away. I just use the cornstarch to prevent sticking. Also, you'll notice that I placed all of the disc flat on a cookie sheet. This ensures that the fondant dries out nice and flat. Now, you don't need it super, super dry in order to proceed with the next step, but you do want it a little bit dry and a little bit firm, especially if you're going to be painting on it with edible marker or edible paints, because if you don't, things indent really easily. And one more thing, to adhere fondant to fondant, all I did was put a little bit of water on there and stick it on. It does this very, very easily, and it works really well. Now, while those are drying out, I decided to cut out some stars with some silver fondant. Finding some sort of element that isn't the character itself sometimes helps to drive home the point of the character without actually having to see the character. My nephew's favorite character is Chase, so that's why I decided to go with the stars. I'm also creating some really simple paw prints here. Prints are a great one. There's lots of characters that are animals, so go with a print when you can. For this tutorial, I tried to keep things rather simple, so if you don't have a piping tip like I do to cut out all of those circles, you could use something like a straw instead. If you want to skip fondant altogether, I hear ya. Go with a color palette choice that's going to match whatever character you've chosen. So I will say that this doesn't quite exactly match the primary colors of Paw Patrol, but I went with this because my sister really didn't want to have super dark icing because it just dyes the children's mouths, you know, a color that just stays there forever. So I went with a lighter blue for her. You can choose to alternate colors. You can also combine more than one color, especially if that character has lots of different colors. This is really going to drive the point home. And I just do this on some plastic wrap and then fold it up. It is not necessary for you to use a French tip like I did for this. The only reason why I did that was because I didn't want to use up two piping bags, because I'm going to use the exact same piping bag for this. Because I'm just swirling two colors together and one of them is white, it's not a big deal to do this. However, if you're using multiple colors, you probably will have to use multiple piping bags. And make sure that you place all of the buttercream in that plastic wrap into a brand new piping bag so that things don't get all muddied. So this was kind of my take on how to incorporate more of those punchier colors without having all of that dye in the buttercream itself. I decided to go with these sprinkles. These sprinkles are actually my sister's favorite type. She just really, really likes the crunch, and we figured that her son would probably like it too, so that's why I went with a sprinkle dip. Creating a sprinkle mix specifically with your character's colors is a great way to make sure that that color combo comes across, and you don't have to go dyeing a whole lot of buttercream. You could honestly just use a little dab of that white buttercream and then press it into the sprinkles. And when you're doing that, make sure that you have enough buttercream so you don't get holes on there, but not too much that it's so much buttercream when you add that little bit of buttercream on top. These fondant discs aren't fully dried, but that's okay. They're dry enough that they can stay perfectly flat and aren't going to get bent. So I just press those in gently. And this is a little side note, if you're using American buttercream or canned frosting and you haven't sprinkled right away, be careful with that. Sometimes with American buttercreams or canned frostings, they form a crust very quickly, especially if it's cold, and you won't be able to sprinkle them. I actually left these for a little bit and then I went back to sprinkle them, and that was totally fine because this is an Italian meringue buttercream. I was doing lots of different things as I was creating these cupcakes, so I believe that fondant rested for about 30 minutes or so before I placed it on. And whenever I place these on, or any type of fondant decor, I like to place it right where the swoop ends so I can no longer see that kind of unfinished edge. And my final tip in this video is add your little something special. So I know that some people like to add gold leaf, me, and some people like to add edible glitter, also me, but just because it's a character that has obviously a standard look doesn't mean you can't add your own spin. So put your own style in there. I think character cakes and cupcakes and desserts look so much better when we put a little bit more of a spin on it instead of trying to recreate exactly what that character is. And of course, it goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it, if this were for a custom order, you would discuss in depth with your client exactly what you were going to create, and you can maybe put out some of those ideas that put your little spin on it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading weekly, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye!